So to give a little background, my spiritual team has asked me to step into trust when coming into contact with entities who've passed on from this plane into the next plane, and to tell their story and to be willing to tell their story. So I'm a little uncomfortable because it feels a little like there's some voices in the front of my head, which I always, if you spend any time with me, you know that I talk about my ego and how my ego gets really big and how it says some things that doesn't, to keep me safe and small. And it's saying a whole bunch of things about how I'm stepping into something that's exploitative and I'm being, ambulance chasing, if you know what that term means. And I want you to know, I'm really not. I was on the phone with one of my best friends, Isabel Zimmerman, and Renee Good came up. And when she came up, I noticed that she was as an entity, she was really close to me. And I turned and I kind of looked in that direction and I was like, "You're here." And I heard her say yes. And I said, "What's up?" Because, I'm starting to do that now. I was told by my team I would start seeing ghosts and I would have entities come to me. And so I just asked the question. I was like, "What's up?" And she said, "I need you to talk for me." And I said, "Oh boy." And then I felt daunted. And then I felt a little overwhelmed. And then I felt a little scared. And then I felt a little honored all at the same time. Like, you want me to talk for you? Of all of the possible people who could hear you, you want it to be me? And so I'm on a level, I'm also extremely humbled. And so I sat with her. I sat with Renee Good and we had a chat. And the last chats I've had, they're all coming out. There's one out now that's that's the first one I did, which is this one. And that was only 9 pages and took about 10 minutes. And then the next one was about 9 pages as well. And the other one was 10. They're all roughly 9 or 10 pages. Renee is 20 pages long. Oh, granted, they're it's a tiny little book, right? My hand fits over the whole thing. So it's a tiny little book. But at the same point, there's a lot of words here. And some of them for me are even a little overwhelming. So I'm kind of excited to be able to share her words on the other side with you. If this isn't for you, let it go. If this is for you and resonates with you deeply, let me know. And I really hope I'm able to help that entity find closure. But there are people on this plane still who are dealing with her tragic loss, especially because it was only a few weeks ago. And there is some reeling that is happening. And if these words find you comfort, specifically people who are named in this, that is my heart for you. I just want you to feel, I don't know. Their word isn't better because I don't know how you feel better. I don't know how you feel better. Okay. So Renee and I are going to talk to you for a moment. Are you ready? I said, "Renee, love, normally people who pass don't want to talk right away." I said, "Why now?" And she said, "I want to cross over, but there are things to say first. Important things I don't want my dearest to forget or not know. Well, I want them to hear me," meaning her. She wants them to hear her voice. "But I can no longer speak for me, and I need help," which, to be honest, is so freaking frustrating in this situation. And then I said, "This might be obvious, but why me?" I mean, in some level, it's not obvious. Anybody else could do this. Why me? Out of all of the mediums to choose, why are you picking me? And she said, "Kim, you may not believe it, but the spirit world is starting to talk about you. There are whispers and rumors. There are stories that you are playing part." Hold on a second. My handwriting. When I was writing kind of fast because she was talking quickly, and so my handwriting, Okay, so what she actually was saying is there are stories that you are not playing parlor games like so many you do. You aren't like that. You sit with us and listen. You hear us and share our fear, our apologies, and our hearts. This helps us release so that we don't take these burdens with us into the next incarnation. We are able to heal faster because you help us release the pain and fear and move a little lighter into the next incarnation. I need that. I want only the good of what happened that day to be brought forward with me, not the trauma. I want to be whole in the next incarnation. And then I said, you just said something that caught my attention. What good came out of that day? And she said with a laugh, so much good. And then she said, I'm a white Rosa Parks on the start of a movement of the giant no, and not anymore, and not in my city, not on my land. The movement starts with me because I prove it will happen to anyone. Not that it can, but it will happen to anyone. The other bit of good is the whole world's attention is now on me. I'm the shot heard round the world. They crossed the line a long time ago, but now people can't just look away. And then I said, what message do you have for me? She said, Kim, you think this work isn't brave. You think it's what anyone would and can do. You listen. You ask us the real questions and give us space to process and be honest. I cannot tell you how grateful I am that you are willing to listen and hear, that you are willing to share what you hear with the world. I never meant to become a hero, but that is what history books will paint me as. Let me explain this better. As a human, my being in this incarnation was to be more loving and supportive. I felt the suffering of others in my body. I felt it. I wanted that to be less for everyone. For my ex-husband and for my son who lost his dad and now his mom, I always said, choose love. It's easy to feel despair, anger, fear. It's so much harder to rise above and continue to give and be love when your heart has been ripped out of your chest in grief. Becca and I talked about that a lot over dinner with all of our kids. Choosing love, being love. They would bring up experiences in school, how they or someone else was being treated. And then how do you show up as love? How do you handle it if you become the target because you are showing up as love and pulling attention to yourself? We talked about the concerns openly. Becca and I were acting out what we taught that day, showing up to support our community and friends as loving support. We were there out of love. So my message to my kids, please, again, over and over, please, 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 let this fuel your acts of love. Yes, grieve. It's so important to grieve. In that grief, you will find levels of anger, hatred, fear you have not previously known. And that is okay. But please do not stay there. Move through. Move the emotions. Feel them. Process them. Move them out. Feel joy. Laugh. Seek experiences that make you feel good. Be wise in your risks. Be love to yourselves first and then to others. Oppression is everywhere at this moment, but that doesn't mean you have to be okay with it. I know I said it all the time with the bedtime rituals and questions and time together every night, but Mama loves you no matter what and no matter how far away I feel. I love you. And I am not that far. Talk to me. I hear you. To my dear sweet Becca, my regrets are big. I had to leave you. This hurts you deeply. I also can't get the sound. You also can't get the sounds of it out of your ears. The tears and grief take you out. You don't know how you are holding it together for the kids. I see all of this. I hated leaving them behind. Now you have to hold the responsibility yourself. I never wanted that for you. But before I incarnated in this life, it was a pre-birth intention to die by ice and cause the world to take notice. This was not random and not something you could say, if we hadn't moved here, this wouldn't have happened. This was my path all along. I agreed to it. Here's an even harder thing I want you all to hear too. Jonathan Ross, the man who shot me, we've been in lives together before, and his soul and my soul agreed we would help humanity ascend. We agreed we would do this horrible thing on a global stage to bring light and love into the darkest of places. So when I said I wasn't mad at him, I am not. My death feels senseless to you. But to me, I understand the purpose, and in a way you may not understand. I am grateful to Jonathan for playing the part he agreed to play before he was born. All of his previous experiences led up to his actions that day, just as all of my previous experiences led me to show up for my friends. So when I said I never meant to be a hero as a human with my limited understanding, I was a mom raising kids, finding love with my partner and in the world. As a soul, I had a purpose and a mission, and I was willing to fulfill that mission. Hold on, I need to move that out a little bit. If there were gifts and experiences to be had in this life, I never wanted to miss out. I never wanted someone else to have to cover for me or for me to shirk on my responsibilities. If it hadn't been me that day, it probably would have been someone else. But please, humanity, hear this. I agreed before my birth for it to be me. I wanted my love to shatter out into millions of pieces and scatter everywhere to help more and more feel and choose love, make higher plane choices, and ascend this planet. Jonathan Ross and I accomplished that on January 7th, 2026. To Jonathan Ross, you have a really tough road ahead of you. I thank you for playing your part perfectly. When ICE is dismantled and Trump is gone, you will be the face of the U.S. Gestapo/SS. Your name will go down with mine, only you won't be the hero. You will be the slur. That is until the full ascension happens. Only killing as many as you have, your soul may be too fractured to ascend in your body as the human you are now. Your soul is severed and fractured and experiencing so much trauma, as is your body, that healing needs to be your focus if you wish to make the ascension. Jonathan, you know who I really have love and compassion for. Your wives and kids. Your cracked soul makes you act in erratic ways that causes unrest and trauma. Also, your kids are facing some pretty rough persecution at school. It's so hard for them to be there as they are now targets in retaliation. It's a lot to manage and handle for them, and your earthly example of how to manage oppression, torment, and cruelty has not given them the skills to rise above and respond in love. I will give them love, though. I will send them angels and spiritual peace. I will watch over them and help them feel love that they do not get from those who are protesting at school, and they don't feel from you when you are in your own trauma story. Not meant as shade at all. Not meant as shade. Just saying that out of love and acceptance, like I said, I'm not mad at you. And then I said, Renee, do you have a gift for me? Kim, my last lines caused you some fear and angst, meaning the last thing she just said. As she was writing, when I was writing these things out about Jonathan Ross, I began to bubble up with fear, oh, this is uncomfortable for me as a human, Kim Beam, not liking it. And she said to me that her last lines just caused me fear and angst. And she said, it's so palpable. My fear and angst was palpable. I too give you my love, that there is that piece is better. And she's like, that feels better to me. I want to give my wife, Becca, every flower in the world for every birthday I will miss. I want to give her every trip to every place she has ever thought. I wonder what it's like there. To my kids, please know every night when you go to bed, I am there. Dreams you have about me are real. When you feel me, please don't doubt it. I am there. That is true for you too, Becca. And said, Renee, do you have a gift for yourself? And she said, I break all ties that hold me back. I release Jonathan from any guilt. I forgive him in love and let him go. I choose love over and over as a gift to me and as a legacy to my family. I said, Renee, how do I help you get to the light? How do I help you find your ultimate peace? She said, Kim, right before I was shot, after I smiled and started to turn, I felt such fear. It's the deepest fear my soul has ever felt, and it dragged me down. It still weighs me down. How do I float and leave with this weighted fear in my soul field? Hold on, my nose is dripping. I can't reach the light easily. And I said, Renee, I know you can't breathe as you did when you had a body, but you know how to deep breathe. You know how a deep breath feels. I want you to take a few of those deep in and out, however that is now for her, right? In that world, in that realm. Now I want you to find the fear in your soul field. Because you no longer have a body, the fear looks and behaves differently than when it's in the body. And how is the fear showing up for you? And she said it's like a dark spot, smudges, only it has substances like soot in water or a wet sock flopping around in a washing machine. And I said, what does that substance tell you? And she said, it's telling me I was dumb, that I limited my experience, other things I believed in life too, that I'm not good enough, not brave enough, not strong enough, that I wimped out, that I wasn't who others needed me to be. And I said, now that you are on the other side, on that side, how do those words land? And she said, they're so dumb. They're so dumb. And she said, I was right where I was supposed to be. I didn't beg or not show up in love for my friends. I was brave and bold that day. As for not being good, my spirit team was trying to show me how good I was by even naming me that. And then I said, I would like you to take the fear. I said, can you touch it? And she said, yeah, but it makes me gag. I said, can you take it and burn it for me? And then she said, done. And I said, how do you feel now? And she said, so much lighter. I said, can you move to the light now? And she said, yes, I really can. Will you tell my kids and Becca I am there at night and ask them to reach out and feel me, please? And I said, absolutely. I said, I will be sure and tell your story. And she said, Kim, we all on this side are so grateful for what you, meaning me, are doing. Oh, and she said, you, meaning me, are really, truly helping all of us, even though that doesn't make sense to you. And I said, Renee, I love your love and spirits so much. You have given such a gift to the world. And then Persephone showed up. And she arrived with her big red flaming hair, and both of them, so Renee with her long red flowy hair and Persephone with her big red flowy hair, right? Two different shades of red, walked into the light together. Thanks for being here.